After some time off, we continue with our series of podcasts on social sciences for democracy, or SOS4democracy, a project funded by the Horizon Europe Research and Innovation Program. In today's episode, we dive deep into the work of Libera, an association that has been at the forefront of combating the mafia and corruption in Italy since its founding in 1995. Over the years, Libera has not only coordinated social activities against organized crime, but also built community-driven alternatives, transforming confiscated mafia assets into spaces of hope and social justice. We'll explore how Libera's role has evolved, what motivates individuals into joining its mission, and what community-based monitoring against corruption really looks like. Joining me in the studio is Elisa Orlando, an anti-corruption activist with Libera, who will share insights into the practical challenges of tracking confiscated assets, the risks surrounding major events like the 2026 Milan Cortina Winter Olympics, and the broader impact of illiberal trends on civil society. Welcome, Elisa. It's great to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Let's start with the basics. Can you tell us, please, what role Libera plays in combating the mafia and corruption?
Yeah. So as you said, Libera is an Italian NGO, and we are really organized as a network, actually. So association, groups, schools, university, really many realities and individual citizens, of course. And we do have a mission to combat mafia and corruption, but also profoundly work for building social justice, for protection of rights, and through Libera was born in 1995, so in a very particular years of the Italian history. Those were years where Italy was shaken by the biggest corruption scandal and the trial Mani Pulite, clean hands, that really dismantled the political system and partly the economic one as well. And on the other side, we have the mafia that was attacking the state in a really unprecedented, violent way, killing judges, police forces, politicians and civilians as well. So that was a moment where civil society really felt the need to come together to rebuild that trust and that social bonds that those events had disrupted. And since the beginning, Libera is doing so with a twofold approach. So on one side, advocacy, so really calling the institutions to take responsibility, introduce new laws, amend existing ones, and so on. And the very first initiatives in this sense was collecting, with this petition, collecting more than 1 million signatures, and to introduce a law, the first law that now allows for confiscated properties from mafia and corruption to be used for social and public purposes. And then on the other side, we have grassroots mobilization, which reminds us that civil society is a key partner in fighting organized crime and corruption through social, cultural, and awareness-raising work.
Mm-hmm. I'm assuming that a lot has happened since 1995. I mean, how has Libera's role, how has Libera's work evolved since then?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The founding pillars of Libera are still there. So our core missions around promoting the social reuse of confiscated assets, the living memory of innocent victims of mafia and corruption, and education and awareness-raising work are still there. But of course, we have developed over time to confront new emergency, new needs. On one side, for sure, new direction is the work at the international level. So Libera is collaborating with many partners in Europe, Latin America, and Sub-Saharan Africa, because, those phenomena are not confined to national borders. Those are global challenges. We need global responses to them. And on the other side, also given our nature as a network of association, we really collaborate with our partners to on different focuses that really show also the interconnections between social, environmental, economic emergencies. We do what we call like social anti-mafia, so not only combating directly criminal organizations, but really reducing its breeding ground. So fighting educational poverty, fighting social marginalization, environmental crimes, labor exploitations.
Mm-hmm. Now, if we move a little bit into your personal motivations for joining Libera, what were those?
Yeah, I guess they were a mix of like a personal and academic
Sure.
journey. So my studies in political science brought me to deepen my knowledge into what mafia and corruption are. But I didn't want this knowledge to stay there. I wanted to translate into action and make my commitment really concrete. So I knew that joining Libera meant joining a community that believes change is possible and tries to achieve this through collective action. So it's a very rewarding work.
Yeah. And your own work, for Libera is focused, as I understand, on anti-corruption and community-based monitoring. I mean, what does that? Can you give us some examples of what exactly does that mean?
Yeah. My work is mainly about community-based monitoring, which we can describe as a form of participation in which citizens and communities take an active role in observing how public money is spent, how public decisions are made, how public resources and appointments are managed. And so it's a preventive measure, is a preventive action. So it's not only about detecting corruption when it has already happened, but really to build a culture of integrity, transparency, and accountability to reduce the space for corruption, for maladministration, for general wrongdoing. And in everyday work, this means that we support local groups in accessing public data, visiting project sites, asking monitoring questions to decision makers, and holding them accountable. Yeah, it's really about acting as accelerators of civic engagement. So we train young people, citizens, and groups to be the watchdogs in their communities. Over the years, we have supported them in monitoring maybe local election, the spending of EU funds, emergency spending in COVID time, confiscated assets, of course, depending on the needs.
Yeah, you mentioned confiscated assets. I mean, how do you monitor, assets? And these assets, I mean, assets confiscated from the mafia in this case, How do you monitor?
We have two approaches in these that are kind of complementary. So on one side, we monitor institution and we advocate for institutional transparency that is provided by law in Italy. So public administrations in Italy are obliged to publish data about confiscated assets that are present in their territory. But this data is not always there, is not always updated. So we really mobilize our local volunteers to send this access to information requests and so to obtain this data. And we started in the first edition of this work with only 35% of the administration publishing the data and 65% not publishing. And now, thanks to our action, we really have inverted those numbers. So 65% are publishing. Of course, the goal is 100%, so we are still committed to this. But this really shows that transparency can be increased thanks to civic pressure. And on the other side, we also publish a yearly report focusing more on the stories of social reuse. So those cooperatives, association groups that take those confiscated property and turn into community centers, cultural hubs, farms. It depends really on what the asset is. And this gives us the opportunity to celebrate good practices, but also to make challenges visible and to bring forward really data-driven advocacy towards institutions. And in those two examples, we really achieved to advance institutional transparency, but also to create new data, civic data, crowdsourced data that was not there and now is available to everyone. So we think we made some impact with this.
Can you give us some examples? I mean, what kind of challenges arise in this process?
Yeah, one of the main challenges is really getting access to information. So Italy, as almost every European country, has a Freedom of Information Act law. I guess you're familiar with the tool because journalists use it a lot as well. And so we use it. We send many requests to access any public data or documents, but public administration do not always respond. They delay their response or perceive these requests as something hostile towards them. And when they publish data, sometimes this data is not complete, updated, or uploaded in a format that make it easy to be used. And so sometimes there is still this challenge that transparency is, a box-ticking exercise. They are obliged by law, so they may do it, but they do not fully perceive that they are doing this for, ensuring the public's right to know. So this makes our role in monitoring a bit more difficult. But, we are not backing up. We just need a bit more of persistence and creativity. Yeah.
Exactly. As I mentioned in the beginning, one of the topics Libera is currently focused on is the risks of corruption connected with the 2026 Milan Cortina Winter Olympic Games. Can you talk us through? I mean, what exactly are the concerns? I know that a lot of, especially the Slovenian public, isn't really aware about these concerns. I'm guessing a lot of Europeans as well aren't really aware of them.
Yeah. To give some context, Libera is coordinating right now a network of more than 20 civil society organizations in Italy that came together under this coalition called Open Olympics 2026 with the goal of pushing for transparency and accountability in the delivery of the games. So civil society was not involved in the decision of hosting the games, but we wanted to have a role in the delivery of it. And all mega events like this one, they bring significant corruption risks with them because they involve huge sums of money, complex public contracting, and there is a non-negotiable deadline for those projects to be brought to an end. So our main concerns was that that transparency, integrity, accountability, but also labor rights, environmental protection, and the interest of local communities that are the most impacted by those infrastructural works are sacrificed for the delivery of those project works just in time for the event. And there is, of course, also a risk of mafia infiltration in the subcontracting, in the supply chain, as other events in the past have showed, like in the Universal Exposition in Milan 2015. And beyond infrastructure, it's about infrastructure, we are also advocating for one of the organizers, which is the Milano Cortina 2026 Foundation, which takes care of the event in terms of ticketing and sponsors and so on, to become more transparent and accountable towards the public, because the tricky situation here is that the government has stated that this foundation must works according to private law. So it's not obliged as other public entities to be accountable to the people, to the citizens. But we see a problem. Our concern here is that according to the last financial report, there is already a deficit of millions of euros. And although it is a private entity, according to the government, any shortfalls any financial shortfalls will be covered by public money. So we argument here that we have a say or a role in monitoring and in keeping this entity accountable. And then, other than that, both the foundation work and some of the construction side have been subject of investigation into corruption, of anti-mafia interdictions. So we think there are reasons to pay attention to this topic now.
My next question would be, how the Italian authorities are really responding to these risks, but you already implied with your answer.
They have acknowledged this risk in some degree. There are regular measures to manage corruption risks, to prevent corruption in regular law. But our argument here is that exceptional time, exceptional spending needs exceptional measures, and some of them have arrived, also thanks to our advocacy. For instance, they publish a transparency portal. They have made new agreement with labor unions to protect, to monitor labor rights on the construction sites. They have reinforced agreements with the anti-mafia authorities to for oversight over contractors and subcontractors. But so these have come after civic pressure from our side. And now what's important is that these measures do not stay on paper, are applied consistently and backed by political will. And at the same time, we need that there should be no parallel initiatives that row in the opposite direction. So securitizing construction sites, making exemptions to existing rules. We need to stay focused on these to make sure these measures are really working.
Now, the project we're both part of, both our organizations are part of, is focused on tracking illiberal trends. How is Libera's work affected by illiberal trends?
So for the first time, I would say in the past 2-3 years, Libera has started to feel more concretely this a growing hostility towards our daily work and also towards our public stances that we have taken from time to time from representatives of institutions. And this take form in discredit or also veiled threat to take legal action against us through social media or traditional media. And we have also denounced over time diversion of funds that not that funds directed at Libera directly, but on the key areas of our work, so on confiscated assets, on victim support, for example.
So if I understand you correctly, in Italy, these trends are also a problem for organized society in general.
Definitely, absolutely. The shrinking civic space, as we can call it, it's really a problem for Italian civil society. Let's just start with the most extreme example, but there have been journalists and activists subject to surveillance through spyware. NGOs that do carry on a work that is hostile to the government, such as rescue operation in the Mediterranean Sea, have been subject of targeted restrictive laws. We have seen the use of strategic lawsuits against public participation, the so-called SLAPs, against investigative journalists, independent media, even comedians. And some of the funding for civil society has been reduced. And at the same time, there has been new recent laws that have been starting to dismantle some of the key anti-corruption laws and tools, the role of the judiciary and institutional oversight is weakened, and various forms of dissent, like nonviolent protest, like simply sitting in the middle of a street blocking the traffic, is now being criminalized. So the combination of all these factors is really a worrying trend in Italy, and is putting pressure on organized civil society work.
And what are the biggest risks activists or organizations face when challenging corruption in a liberal context?
Yeah. When you challenge corruption, you are exposing wrongdoing of powerful actors. So as all those actors like journalists, activists, whistleblowers that are exposing that face retaliation, online harassment, SLAPs, as we were saying, restricted laws, until we arrive really to personal safety put at risk. And the greatest danger, though, in all of this is isolation. So we really need to build networks and solidarity to protect those who come forward.
And I mean, the obvious question is here, how can civil society organizations like Liberal push against, these illiberal trends?
Yeah. Well, what my Libera team member in the project and me have observed, thanks to the project, is really that the civic engagement and civil society organization can be a crucial barrier to democratic backsliding, especially if taking at its beginning, the early stages. And so collective action, as we were saying, is fundamental to amplify civic engagement, amplify the impact of civic engagement, and also protect and reduce the individual vulnerability. And we have observed that civic society should leverage an interplay between different levels of governance. So building coalition with both domestic and international civil society, building alliances with those authorities that are not yet compromised, or even with individuals within authorities that are champion of integrity and democratic values. And then, of course, leverage also the international legal framework and organizations and the review mechanisms that those imply. So the goal is really to keep alive those power scrutinizing mechanisms, to keep citizens informed and active, to resist illiberalism and trying to protect our democracies.
Yeah. So the key is basically to have active citizens playing their part, in all of this, I would assume. Education, I think that, has a big part in everything that we've been talking about, really, and can be considered, for many of the problems, a solution for many of the problems modern societies face. And is this also true for the fight against corruption?
Absolutely. Corruption is not a technical or a legal problem. It's a cultural one. as well. So of course, we do need laws and institutions, as we were saying, but we also need citizens who can think critically, who can question their own choices, who can act collectively for integrity and justice. And here is where education plays a decisive role. And I would say we should not think of education only as the learning happening in classrooms, but really all the educational experiences that prompt reflection and empower citizens of all ages to become active citizens and to really step forward to take care of the common good.
That brings us to the finish line. Thank you so much for your time, Elisa, and for sharing your fascinating work with Libera with us.
Thank you for the interview.
Thanks also to all of our viewers and listeners for tuning in. We hope to see you again soon.